Welcome to the fairest show on television from Washington this evening, and we turn our eyes to Texas, where the Texas Board of Pardons says they will immediately look into freeing a man convicted of killing an armed protester during the BLM riots in the summer of 2020. Texas Governor Greg Abbott asked the board to deliver an expedited recommendation in the case of Sergeant Daniel Perry. The governor says the killing is justified under Texas's Stand Your Ground law. Perry was driving an Uber in downtown Austin during the protest. He came across protesters and tried to go through the crowd. That's when Garrett Foster approached his car while legally carrying an AK-47. And here is what happened next. The trial centered around which man raised his weapon first. Defense attorneys say Foster did. But some protesters who saw it happen say Foster never pointed his gun. Angelica Cogliano represents Garrett Foster's widow. He's the protester who died in the shooting. Angelica, nice to see you. Appreciate it. Look, this is the way the court systems work and the way the Texas Constitution works, right? The jury decides guilt or innocence, and then the Texas Parole Board makes a recommendation. And if the governor wants to pardon somebody, they can they not?
So the governor absolutely can pardon somebody upon recommendation of the Board of Pardons and Paroles. This mechanism for that is unprecedented. Mr. Perry has not even been sentenced in this case yet. The jury reviewed over 2 weeks of evidence. They were very conscientious, asked the court a number of notes about the law, and the governor in this case has asked for a recommendation when he has not reviewed any of that evidence. To my knowledge, hasn't even seen an offense report.
How do you know he hasn't reviewed any of the evidence?
To my knowledge, and that's
okay.
Is the caveat. I have not heard from anyone or anywhere that he has requested it.
Well, he was the state attorney general, so let's at least give him the benefit of the doubt that he's looked at the case. I guess this would be my question. And you said the jury went about their deliberations for 2 weeks, and I'm old enough and have been doing this long enough not to question a jury. But we can all agree that this case probably has an enormous number of tentacles to it and sides to it. And probably it was not entirely decided based on the law for no other reason than in the beginning, the police didn't even arrest the Sergeant Perry, because they thought it was a case of self-defense.
So there was evidence presented at the trial that the police department did not review, and witnesses that testified on behalf of the state that were not interviewed by law enforcement. And I know for a fact that the governor did not attend any of trial and that none of the trial was broadcast. And so he certainly hasn't reviewed what the jury did review in this case. We do have appellate procedures in this state and in this country that allow for the review of convictions if there was something illegal that happened or if there was insufficient evidence that was heard to sustain the verdict that was rendered. And that process has not been completed, and it is unprecedented for the governor to tell and decide if he would pardon someone and ask for a recommendation for a pardon before those appellate processes that allow and protect defendants from illegal verdicts before they get to the stage that the governor's at.
Well, forgive me, but we're in 2023, and unprecedented seems to sort of be the norm now. But that said, that said, if an innocent man or if a man who is not guilty spends one extra day behind bars, we can all agree that is a travesty of justice. That's the one thing that should be prevented. And if the governor believes that, as it's clear he does, because he says he should be pardoned, then why wouldn't he pardon him immediately?
So the governor does not, as I said, know the evidence that led to the conviction in this case. And the Board of Pardons and Paroles has a procedure that they use to evaluate both the evidence in the case and any other circumstances, including a victim liaison that is supposed to communicate with people like my client Whitney or with the rest of the Foster family before they make their recommendation. And they're skipping all of the processes that are to make this fair the way that you described.
We could all agree, though, effectively this is political, right? This is in Austin, which is a blue enclave inside of deep red Texas. This was the BLM riots. This is a sergeant from the Army. This is political, effectively, right?
So I agree with you that the governor's tweet about pardoning him was definitely political. I would submit to you that the Travis County District Attorney's Office has engaged in a number of prosecutions that the governor may not agree with, and a number of them have been acquitted at trial. So Travis County juries are not buying into the politics.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.